so many of our members, Farzad, think the Cybertruck is never going to come out, that it's just all a hoax.
I'm one.
Okay.
Yeah.
What would you like to know?
I'd like to know why there's 1.5 million orders and they really haven't started building the damn thing. I mean, how much of a backlog do you really need to say, okay, it's time to start building this stuff?
Well, Ray,
Yeah.
I think you know the answer to that. You're just not thinking all the way through on that. I believe the word you're trying to think of is gigapress. That has to sort of be delivered and installed before they can start making it. So there was some wait time on getting the gigapress, right?
When did they first show the Cybertruck?
2019, November.
Yeah.
So almost 4 years ago. What was
I don't know if you heard about this thing called a pandemic. But we had this little blip in time there where like everything was shut down and no one was doing anything, including the people who make the gigapress.
You are a Tesla fanboy. You will come up with any excuse necessary for why we are so far behind the 8 ball when it comes to the production of the Cybertruck, and why people like me think it's never going to happen. Now, granted, I understand it's going to happen, but it's never going to happen in the numbers that they need it to happen to satisfy the 1.5 million people that have had an order for it. You know, it's reminiscent of I hate to say this, of a Ford Maverick, hybrid, where I get emails from people who literally ordered 2 of them, a gentleman who ordered 2 of them last September, and he keeps getting emails from Ford saying, hey, we really appreciate your patience. And the guy's thinking, it's not I want the damn truck, okay? And they still don't have a build date for him, and they don't have anything for him, and we're like 10 months in. That erodes customer confidence in a manufacturer when they're willing to open up an order bank and unwilling to actually produce the damn vehicles. So I understand there was a pandemic, okay? I get it. But at some point you had to say, we're never going to be able to build all these. Let's stop taking orders, once you reach 500,000.
Did.
Let us get caught up on the first 500,000 before we really start pissing off the other million. That buys you bad press, not good press.
Go ahead.
I was just going to push back a little bit and say, hey, Ray, how long does it take to get a RAV4 Prime?
It takes you. The same thing applies to that. Why Toyota.
But we're not saying
market share.
But we're not saying Toyota is not legitimate. They're not building this vehicle. It takes 18 months to get one, but we're not like, hey, they should have just stopped orders.
The difference is it's been around, and they don't accept orders because it's a Toyota, and you can't order one. Okay,
well,
better than
I think
most.
Farzad's going to answer the ordering part of this.
Okay.
So I'll let him go on that one.
All right. I'll try my best. Here we go. All right. So it's multifaceted. I think there is, if I view it from a manufacturing perspective, I think Tesla has a reputation for being late with everything. So that's number one, which is something that I would 100% agree they need to work towards. And Elon Musk himself has come out, when the leader of the company is an eternal optimist and he's always missing deadlines, the culture of the company is going to be built that way. But the flip side of that is that it enables these insane things that end up happening after a while, right? So it's kind of a double-edged sword. From the Cybertruck's perspective, so the pandemic definitely had a big impact in the supply chain. These are brand new technologies, brand new supply chains that have to be spooled up. No one has made a car like this before, with an exoskeleton and single piece castings with that size of a car. So it requires a lot of new technology. And so when you have the pandemic kick in, it's kind of very unlucky. It's like all these people that were supposed to be using the resources to build that, they had to shift it to make sure the economy doesn't collapse, right? So they had to move resources around. Then you have the battery shortage component in that same exact time period. So they don't have enough battery materials available for them to get the Cybertruck ramped up. And then the other piece of it was that the demand for existing cars, so the Model Y, the Model 3, especially the Model Y, the demand was so high that it made no sense for them to ramp up any new products at the time. They're like, well, people just want the freaking cars we have now and barely have enough to make 1 million of them per year. We have to figure out how to make 1.7, 2 million of them per year. So all these things combined to basically, I mean, for lack of a better word, put Cybertruck on the back burner for a while, because they had to get the rest of the supply chain and manufacturing ramped up to be able to do the Cybertruck. And I agree with you that the wait time for those 1.5 million will be long for sure. And, you know, their plan is to get to 500,000. I think rumor, again, he said somewhere between 250 to 500,000 units per year once it's fully ramped, which will take a few years to get there. So it's potentially, unless people start canceling their orders, you could be still waiting for a few years to get your Cybertruck. But I think the bigger question becomes, what is the total capacity of electric pickup trucks today in America? And it's very small. It's F-150 Lightning, the Rivian R1S, and that's about it. And that's those two units combined yearly is like what, 50,000 a year, maybe 100,000 a year. So that's the equation that I think through. So yeah, you'll have to wait, but literally there's nothing else for you to buy unless you can get a Rivian or an F-150, which bodes well for any competitors, right? So that's a little bit of the picture there.
So my question is, have all these people that are waiting for these Cybertrucks, have they seen it? Have they seen how ugly it is? They don't care.
You keep mispronouncing the word beautiful, Brandon. I'm not sure what that is. It must be a Southern thing that you're just.
It's funny Brandon says that, because I literally went on my really good friend down here. His name's Travis. I did a video with him on Sunday. So he's born and bred Texan. He worked at the oil field for like over a decade. He has an F-250 diesel and he loves the hell out of his truck. He's just like the most stereotypical Texan you could ever think of, right? And I love that guy to death. And we were driving around in my Tesla, driving itself and whatever. And he says the same exact thing. And he's like, that is the ugliest freaking thing I've ever seen. It has looks only a mother could love, right? and I keep telling people, wait until you see it in person. I've seen this thing in person multiple times. I just saw it at the shareholder meet in May or April, whenever the hell that was. I don't even know what the dates are anymore. But in person, it's a completely different story. I'm very curious to what I'm really looking forward. You two, especially Ray and Brandon. I want to see y'all's reaction to the Cybertruck once it's out on the streets. I think getting your reaction is not only going to be amazing content, but I'm really curious to get your take, because I think that's the kind of, you know, if Tesla really wants to get really mainstream and become a dominant player, that's the kind of market they have to dig into. They have to dig into the traditional pickup truck buyer and all that good stuff.
To piggyback on what Brandon said, okay, the Cybertruck is the pickup trucks what troll dolls were to dolls. Okay, it's so friggin' ugly that it's cute. Okay, so I agree with Brandon 100%. Have people actually looked at it, and it's almost like going to like the world's most expensive restaurant and finding out the food sucks, but you're not going to tell anybody because you just overpaid so much for it. So there's 1.5 million people out there waiting on this Cybertruck, telling themselves, "Oh, it's really beautiful," when in reality, it's really not.
It looks just like a DeLorean to me, just a big DeLorean.
I mean, they're the same color, but other than that,
I mean,
I'm not sure about
that.
that.
They're both triangular shaped, and they're both ugly. So,
well, I've seen it in person, not the one that Farzad did. I saw one of the originals down in LA
at the museum.
At the museum.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. It's massive, but it's beautiful.
I think the proportions of it, you know, because proportions are a big deal on a car, and it's hard to get the proportions on a picture, especially when the car itself is already a 2D. It's a triangle. It's literally a triangle on wheels, right? It literally is a triangle on wheels. But once you see it in person, the proportions kick in, and you start seeing some of the curvatures and the lines, which it has, surprisingly. And then the finish is super reflective. So in the sun, you can literally see the entire world around it. And it looks, I don't know. I'm just going to shut up and I'm going to let you guys see it in person. And I bet you're going to think differently. That's my bet. We'll see.
I have absolutely no faith in that I will convince Ray that it is a beautiful truck or that he would ever want one, and probably Brandon either. I just I don't think it. But I will tell you, I love it.
Yeah, so I'm coming along on the Teslas. I saw the Plaid yesterday. A buddy of mine came by the shop and showed me his, and I mean it's awesome on the inside. The outside still but I mean the inside of them are really cool, and I like the no maintenance. So I'm getting there. Just keep working on me. We'll do an interview with Farzad every month or so, and I'll get just 5% farther every month. So we'll work on it.
I think that's what we did with Ray. We just slowly moved him to, but that's I think Farzad, you mentioned this at the outset. That's sort of what we try to do. I don't try to convince anyone that they need to go out and buy a Tesla. That's not my thing at all. As a matter of fact, my sister's looking for an EV after driving my Tesla, and I said, before you just jump into Tesla, let's look at what else is out there, and you can see and try. But mine is just to educate people, since Tesla's not doing it, on the misconceptions about EVs, because I think the more the Rays and the Brandons of the world find out the realities of numbers and things, that a lot of the hesitation drops off to where you're like, okay, well, it is a viable vehicle, and it's not a 13 Nissan Leaf.
And I think this is where it's important for other automakers, not just Tesla, right? It's important for the Fords, the GMs, the Hyundais, the VWs. They all, it's, if it really is going to be the future, and it's going to be a world of no maintenance, very low running costs, great performance, even at the cheap end, because you have an electric motor that has instant torque and all that stuff, right? It lends itself to a really good driving experience. It's going to require an industry-wide effort to actually prove that. It can't just be one player, right? It has to be everybody, because I think over time, people will want variety. They'll want choice. And we're not even going to talk about the self-driving portion of it. Let's just talk about people actually wanting to drive their cars. People will want some sort of some level of variety, and so you need compelling vehicles from everybody. And I think one player, is proving that, which should has a blueprint for everyone else to at least pick and choose the things they want to do as well, and potentially even tap into the same supply chain Tesla has built to maybe take batteries or whatever else they need. But then they need to prove out the technology and that form of transportation as well, so that people can actually adopt it. It's so that it's not just like, hey, let's move for the sake of moving. It has to be because it's cheaper and it's better. And if those two things get proved out, then it should take off. But if neither of those two things are true from a whole industry perspective, it doesn't deserve to be taken on, because it's not actually better for the consumer. That's how I think about it.